Hello, this is Coach Matt from Coach Matt's Online Chess Academy. Today, I'm going to show you guys a position that deals with calculating variations. And calculating variations means considering all the possible variations that you can play in a particular position, even the ones that don't look so good and the ones that seem a little bit unusual, you still must consider them to find the best possible move. So in this situation right here, the rook that's over here on this square, which is c5, is now attacking the queen. Black makes an unbelievable move that was shocking to people at this time. And what Black decided to play here was the move queen to g3. Now, some of you watching this video might say, well, Coach Matt, that's just an absolutely wild and crazy move. Why on earth would you play queen g3? It looks like it's in trouble by both of a pawn here, by a pawn over here, and by a queen over here, all attacking this piece at the same time. Surely this must be a bad move. Well, before we talk about what happens if somebody captures this particular queen, let's talk about, first of all, the fact that this rook on h3 is unable to be captured because the pawn on g2 is now pinned by the queen, so it cannot take the rook right now. Let's also talk about the fact that if white says, well, I don't really care about this, I'm just going to move my queen someplace else like over here, then black has a very quick way to win the game with a queen captures the pawn on h2 for checkmate. This is protected by the rook, it's checking the king, and there's no way to escape. So let's talk about what happens if he decides to push this pawn forward to give himself an escape square for his king to retreat. Well, now you play first knight to e2 check, king to h1, and then queen takes h2 is checkmate. So back to our position over here, you can see that white has to do something about this. Any move that he makes with the queen, unfortunately, leads to a checkmate, and any move he tries to bring his pawn forward so that his king can retreat also does not work. So let's talk about, first of all, if his pawn on h2 captures the queen. If that happens, black can win the game in just one move with knight to e2, and it is now checkmate. There's nowhere for white to escape. All the squares are covered. The game is over. If he decides to capture with the other pawn, now black continues with knight to e2 check. And now, as you can see, the rook controls the square over here on f2. When the king slides over to h1, now the rook can capture the rook and checkmate. And now let's talk about what happens if the queen takes it. Well, if the queen takes it, now it looks like, in this situation, white might potentially be able to escape. But this is exactly what black had in mind as a plan. He plays knight to e2 check. This move not only checks the king, but also forks the queen. It forces the king to slide over to h1. And now the knight can take the queen with check. This pawn cannot capture because of the rook. And if this pawn does capture, I will show you what happens. Really bad things. As black comes down for a checkmate, and the game is now over. So in this situation here, both captures again don't work. The king slides back over. Black brings his knight back with check or takes the rook. Either way is fine. Once he takes this rook here, the knight is able to retreat. And now black is up just one extra knight versus white. And this is a really good endgame position for black's favor here. Now, the important thing to understand about this video is the idea of how to calculate these variations and how to come through in a situation, if we back up a little bit, that no matter what possibility you do from this particular move, every single one is going to work in black's favor. This is how you calculate at a higher level in chess, is looking at all the possible moves. Even the moves that look silly or don't look so good should be considered. And here, going back to our original position, how many of you watching this would really think that queen to g3 was the right move? I'll tell you this much, I didn't think so without seeing it actually in a game. And that's something to remember. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. For those of you interested in taking chess lessons online with me, please remember that you can become a great player. All it takes is hard work, patience, and persistence. Please contact me for my help by email at chess.coach.matt@gmail.com.